How's it going, everybody? It's Ben from the Ben and Bev channel, and we're back today with a review of Sony's Venom.
Let There Be Carnage.
First things first.
I do not hate that first Venom movie. It's just really choppy.
1 minute you're in a serious, dark sci-fi movie, and then the next you have Tom Hardy handling it like it's a slapstick comedy. Much as a mess as the first Venom movie was with its tone and delivery, we can all agree that coming from it, that Venom the character was definitely a highlight of the movie as a whole. This movie definitely doubles down on that as he is more in the center focus. I will say, interesting with the way that it handles that element in itself. Get this almost romantic comedy setup between Eddie Brock and Venom where they both not really getting along and living together. Eddie Brock has become a complete loser, lazy sack. Spends his whole day on the couch doing nothing because Venom is inside his head. And since he's lost his girlfriend, life just hasn't been the same. Now Venom kind of tires of this because he's ready to go out and do big cosmic alien things.
Whether it's eating people or just being a hero.
And I honestly think this movie did a better job of building this dynamic. I just wish it would have spent a little bit more time focused on that. He tends to get a little bit distracted once Cletus Kassidy is involved. In fact, the opening scene to the movie really sets up the Cletus Kassidy and Carnage backstory, kind of flashbacks into the past, which almost sets it up in this completely different storyline, leading to this movie also feeling like it's two movies kind of crammed into one. So on one side you have Cletus Kassidy and this whole serial killer arc and his story with Venom and how he kind of comes into a second level of power and escapes the prison. The other side you have the Eddie Brock and Venom drama. As related as these two stories and two characters are, it honestly doesn't really feel very earned when you do finally get to that conclusion, as the characters have been acting mainly by themselves for the entirety of the film. Well, the way Cletus Kassidy talks to Eddie definitely feels like he has deep care and concern for Eddie Brock to the point that it's kind of creepy. You don't really feel that same energy from Eddie. He doesn't really give a shit at all, and doesn't even really want to be there to interview the guy for his last rites. In fact, he doesn't even want the free scoop of information that Cletus tries to give him at the beginning of the film. He really just doesn't want to
Do anything.
and I think that bit of narration choice is what actually leads to both of these storylines feeling so separate despite them being so tied together. Another weird thing about Cletus is while he definitely is handled with a sense of animation and intensity that only an actor like Woody Harrelson can bring, doesn't really feel like he is a serious threat. Or
Trying to think of the right words here.
it's not like he's not a serious threat, it's just he isn't as convincingly a serial killer in this movie as he is in other movies. We've all seen Woody Harrelson in a creepier role than this, and the way he plays Cletus Kassidy in this film just feels like a neutered portrayal of some of his past characters. And while that isn't completely his fault, as it is a PG-13 movie and we are kind of stuck within the confines of this Marvel/Sony universe, he still didn't even come across with the right vibe. It almost comes across as a very crazy and enigmatic superhero villain.
Which is great.
And he does a solid job of handling the character. It's just, he doesn't feel like a serial killer.
Not personally doing a bunch of cruel, messed up, sick stuff. We don't feel this connection to the victims and the families and all the people he's affected before because we don't know anything about it. And the movie's not going to spend time on it because it doesn't have time. It's only an hour and a half long.
And so at this point you're thinking, man, this is a lot of negatives. And while there is a huge amount of negatives, I think there's a lot more positives in this movie than there was in the first entry. While the stories may not seem like they're together, I believe everything that worked in the first movie was brought up to 10 for this one. And to the point that they even repeat some of the same gags over and over in a slightly different light. It actually works out for this film. If you're going to make a sequel, your goal is to make something that is better. And I don't know if it was Andy Serkis or just the change in direction. Something about this one feels like they really put the tunnel vision on the Venom.
The first movie.
Brought out everything that worked from that. Comedy, then the CGI has also improved leaps and bounds from the first entry as the symbiote CGI looks even more realistic to the point that it's actually disgusting. The way that the symbiotes wrap around their host with the teeth and the tongue wrapping around their head is just... While we're not entering rated R levels of gross, it is pretty cool to see Carnage in action as he's shoving his tongue down people's throats and tearing people in half, biting off people's heads in true Carnage form. And it's really cool to see him positioned in a church at one point. Definitely some solid calls to the comics.
Also the Lethal Protector joke.
I caught that.
And while it's the action intensity of the movie that actually keeps everything propelling forward, it can't help but get lost in this relationship drama between Eddie and Venom. It's absolutely hilarious, especially when Michelle Williams comes back, to see the way Venom and Eddie have to deal with this breakup that they've been going through, because Venom feels just as attached to her as Eddie does. Something that I think really works in the comedic lens of things with this film, and as messy as it is, it adds for this endless state of laughing and jaw-dropping action sequences. And while it's definitely not a masterpiece, for sure better than the first one. And
did I mention?
after credit scene kind of ties everything to the MCU a little bit in a way that your mouth is just on the floor when you leave the theater.
Thinking about it, the after credit scene is honestly more memorable than the whole film in the long run.
You actually can't think of anything but that after credit scene.
You completely forget about Cletus Kassidy, you forget about Carnage. As soon as you see that after credit scene, you know that's why you really came.
You know that's why you really came.
Oh my gosh.
What the?
My personal rating for Venom Let There Be Carnage is a 7.4. While it's not the most exciting or creative movie of the year, I think Venom Let There Be Carnage succeeds at being a really strange and fun action comedy. Doesn't overstay its welcome, delivers on the action's laughs and thrills. While it may be forgettable in the long run, definitely worth a watch, as there's a lot of spectacle and enjoyment and now a direct connection to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What more do you need? What did you guys think of Tom Hardy's American accent? Let us know in the comments below. See you guys next time. Ben and Bev, out.